Hey YouTube, this is your boy Big Al. On today's tutorial, what we're doing is a razor fade slick back with a lineup. I explained most of the steps on here. It's pretty much in real time. The total haircut took me about 35 minutes. If you have any questions or any comments, feel free to leave them. Please subscribe to our channel. If we're coming out with more vlogs and more tutorials in the near future, we appreciate you. We're here to help. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them. Thank you. First step in creating our razor fade is creating our first guideline, which I like to use as my balder. What I do is just flip it upside down and I zero gap it and save myself a lot of time and a lot of energy of messing up my trimmers. So I basically always use a balder when I'm doing my zeros, and I use that to knock down all the hair down to the skin. It's easy, fast, and efficient. Once I'm done creating my guideline all the way around, I just clean it all up, make it nice and tight, get it ready for my next step. Next step is getting my number 4 and just going up the sides around the crown and knocking down all the big bulk that's there, so that when I go back with my 1.5 or my number 2 and just start my blend. Once I'm done with the 4, what I'm going to do now is get my number 2 metal blade, and what I'm just going to go right up the side of it. As I'm going up, I'm going to be pulling up, so that just gradually blends it right into where the number 4 was at before. Once I'm done with the number 2, what I like to do is grab my trimmer, and what I like to do is create a shave line. What I do is I flip my trimmer upside down and I just go right under where I created my guideline, and I create a little shadow line, and that shadow line is where I'm going to shave up to with my wall shaver. The next step is to grab my number 1 clip with the lever open, which is a number 1.5, and what I do is go right up to where the number 2 was, and it just gradually just blends right in. Once I go all the way across, what I'm going to do is lower my lever to closed, and now it's a 1. Now our 1 blends into the 1.5. Just lightening it all up, preparing myself for my next step. Next is your half step. This is no guard with your lever open, just creating a nice shadow line all the way across. Once you create that shadow line all the way across, then you lower your lever 3/4 of the way, and you go all the way across, not going quite as high. Then you lower it one more time and just gradually lifting from bottom to top as you erase the bottom line. Now we're going to clean up the bottom guideline with our trimmer. What I do is just go up, and as I go up, I pull up so that I don't create another line at the bottom. Now I got my machine with only the lever halfway open, and what I'm doing is taking off the secondary line right below the line that I created with the half when I first originally started fading out the bottom. The next step is to grab my half clip with the lever open, and what I'm going to do is go across gradually. As I go across gradually, what I do is I lower my lever, and as I'm lowering the lever, what I'm doing is just raking the shadow that I created with the half. Again, with my lever closed now and my half clip on, what I'm doing is just gradually raking the shadow and erasing it. As I'm erasing it, I lift up the skin a little bit, comb my hair down, and I just gradually just rake it. What I mean by raking, I just mean I grab the tip of the corner of the machine and I just rake it across the surface, erasing that shadow. Now, if there's any hair that you're not able to rake up with your half clip, the next step is just take off the half clip and open your machine to halfway. And what I do is same thing, same step, just gradually rake it until I see that little shadow gone. Now I put my half clip back on, and I'm just going up and gradually raking and lifting my lever up as I go higher, and just erasing the shadow and making that perfect blend. Again, when I fade, I like to fade in 3 sections. I like to fade the left side of the head, the back side of the head, and then the right side of the head. Right here I am on the back side of the head. The next step is for me to grab my trimmer, turn it upside down, and gradually create a shave line. The shave line is the line where I'm going to shave up when it's time to do the razor part. Same steps I use on the right side, I'm going to use on the back side. And that's start off with my number 4. And what I'm doing is just gradually reducing the bulk that comes up to the side of the head, just only around the crown basically. Now I'm beginning with my 1 clip with the lever open, which is a 1.5, and what I'm going up is I'm going up to the side of the crown of the head, just creating my next guide. That guide I'm gonna eliminate with clipper over comb once I'm done with that. Now I lower the lever and I'm going with the number 1 all the way across, just gradually reducing it and fading it all down. Here's my clipper over comb step where I'm blending the number 4 to the 1.5. And what I'm doing is I'm gradually just lifting up the hair and blending it all in, making it look all nice and smooth. Preparing myself for the next step, which is going to be the half. Here I am again with the 1.5, just doing a little bit of detail work where I'm just blending that 1.5 into the clipper over comb where I just hit it. And what I do in here is drop the lever down to a 1 and I'm gradually just blending up. Now again, here I am with my half lever open. No guard. What I'm doing is creating my next shadow line. I go up about maybe 3/4 of an inch to an inch, depending on whether it's a high fade, middle fade, or a low fade. That's how I determine how high I go up on this step. Here I lowered my lever 3/4 of the way, and I'm just going up almost to the same height, but not quite as high. Now I here go with my 0, no clip, lever close. That's why it's a 0. And what I'm doing is just gradually trying to erase that bottom shadow line. It's not gonna all come up. So what I'm gonna do now is grab my trimmer. And what I'm doing is just gradually raking the bottom line. When I gradually rake it, I pull up. And what that does is that eliminates that bottom shadow line, just erasing it. Now I'm doing my detail step. What I do is I grab my machine with a half open and I gradually raking my secondary line gradually up to the spot where I created my half line. The next step again now is to grab my half clip, lever open, and what I'm going to do is erase my shadow line that I created with my half. And what I'm doing is going across, gradually raking it, then I lower it 1/4 of the way, gradually raking the center of the line again. Then I lower my lever once again to the half spot and gradually raking the center spot. And what I mean by raking again is what I do is put my corner down and I gradually just rake at the shadow. Here I took off the half clip and now I'm doing the little detail work. When I told you that sometimes you can't get it out with a half clip, you gotta take off the half clip, put the lever halfway up and go back up again until you gradually erase that line. Removing the center shadow is one of the most difficult parts when you're first learning how to fade. Uh, for me, it was probably the most difficult part. Once I got this step down, it made fading so much easier, and it's just something that comes with time and experience. The more haircut you do, the better you're gonna get at it. As you can see here by my technique, what I do is I like to, like I've mentioned before, is I like to rake with the corner and even the center of the machine right here, just kind of raking up, pulling up, and I play with my lever and I see my shadow erasing. Like I mentioned before, I like to fade in 3 sections: right side, back side, and then left side. Now I move on to the left side. Same steps I used on the right side, I'm going to use on the left side. Start off with my number 4, gradually reducing all the bulk. Again, the next step is to grab my trimmer, turn it upside down, and create my shave line. Shave line is a shave line where I'm going to shave up to when it's time to do the razor part. Once again, the next step is to grab your 1.5 and you're going to go all the way up to the side of the temple. Not as high as you went with a 4, but enough room that you have to do your next step, which is going to be the clipper over comb. Again, a little bit of clipper over comb action, reducing the bulk, blending it all in from your number 1.5 to your number 4. Getting ready for your next step, which is a half. Now I go again with my half, lever open, and I'm creating my second shadow line. That second shadow line is going to be determined where I'm going to fade up to. Now with no clip and the lever closed, I'm just erasing the bottom line. Once I'm done going all the way across, I grab my trimmer, and this is where I really detail and take out the bottom line. Now with my lever halfway open, all I'm doing is a little bit of detail work. Just getting ready for my next step, which is a half clip. Now again, here we're back to the spot where I mentioned earlier that this is probably the most difficult part for most barbers, erasing the center half shadow line. Once again, I use my half clip, lever open, and I'm gradually raking, pulling up. As I pull across, I lower my lever a little, and I go back and just basically tapping the center line. Closing my lever as I go across and just raking and blending it all in. At this point, our fade's almost done. Basically what I'm doing now is just blending in, doing a little bit of detail work, taking out the center line with no guard on, and just blending it all in, making it look nice and tight. The next step now is to turn them to the right side and start with the shave. What I'm using is a wall shaver, and basically what I'm doing is just shaving up to the shave line that I created with my trimmer before I started my fade. Myself, I consider this a razor fade. I mean, some barbers can consider a razor fade if it's done with a straight razor. To me, it's just a preference. Some customers like it with a straight razor. Some guys like it with a razor machine. Preferably, I like the razor machine. The razor machine leaves it a lot smoother because you got the upstroke. So it's just a preference for the customer. Of course, guys, customers always right, so it's just their preference. If they want the razor, then you give them the razor. I have customers that like both. Some customers, I shave them first with a straight razor, and then I hit them again with the razor machine at the end. Of course, this is the little service that they request, and after a while I just know that that's the way they like it. So when they come to me, I already know that I gotta shave them and razor them with a little razor machine. But on the norm, most people, I just use the razor machine on. It's just a lot smoother, and for me it's a lot faster. Personally, I think that the razor part with the razor machine is very, very important. When I do a fade, even if it's on a kid, a youngster, I always try to use my razor machine. It just leaves the fade a lot nicer. It gets that bottom shadow that, you know, a trimmer can never really get out. Never leaves it that smooth. I would say probably about 95% of my fades, I actually all finish them off with a razor machine. Like I said, it just makes your fades look nice and tight. Take that into consideration as a young barber, guys. Right here, guys, we're pretty much done with the fade, so now we're just going to prepare to do the back. This young gentleman requested that he wants to comb his hair back. At first, I didn't think it was going to go back, but I knew that with some product and some proper styling, it can go back. So right here, I'm just pushing it back, getting prepared, added some water, getting ready to do my scissor work. Again, when I cut the top, I always like to use a lot of water. I mean, I use generous amounts of water, as you can see. Not getting it quite soaked, but you know, I like to get it really moist. It's just easier to grab and easier to cut and easier to lay down. So here I start with my center guide. I'm just going down. What I do is I like to start on the right side of the head, and I'll start in the middle, and I lift up my guide and I gradually go back. And as I go back, I pull a little bit more, because as you know, the back should be shorter than the front. Then I go to the left side of the head and I do the same thing. I start off with the center guide, lift up, cut, pull back, go to the next section. Then I start off with I usually cut the sides into two sections, so I'll go center and then right side. Right here, as you can see, I'm going down with the right side. And once I'm done with that, I just comb it all back and I just go over it one more time to make sure that I didn't miss any spots. And I prepare myself for my next step, which is what I like to do is I like to checker it. I like to cut from side to side, front to back first, and then from side to side. That way I make sure that I picked up all the hairs that I didn't miss, that I missed when I was going from front to back. Again, remember, I like to checker it front to back, side to side. Once I'm done with that, then it's my next step. Just getting ready to style the hair now. The next step now is just getting ready to style the hair. What I like to use is some Suavecito grooming spray. Use a generous amount on top. And what the grooming spray really does is it just creates a nice lift. What it basically is like a hair setter. It just sets the hair so that when you add your pomade on the outer top part of it, it just holds and it sticks really nice. So basically, pomade works better when your hair is dry. So this is another reason why we dry the hair before we add our pomade. As you can see, while I'm using my brush, what I do is I put the brush down as I'm pointing the hair dryer on it, and what I do is I just basically roll the brush. The rolling the brush creates a nice little lift in the front of the hair. The next step now is to do a lineup before I apply my pomade. So what I do is I just basically turn them, and I like to start my lineups on the left side, and I do one side of the lineup first, do one corner, and then I do the other corner. In case you're wondering, the machine that I use is an Andes T-liner with a GTX blade modified. I cut them myself. I just find that with a modified trimmer, it's easier to get into certain spots, especially when you're doing lineups. It's just a lot easier to work with than a regular trimmer. I work my way to the center. Now I'm going to go to the right side of the head. Here I just turn them to the other side, and then basically I got to duplicate what I did on the opposite side. Using the tip of my trimmer, just kind of peck at it and get your line nice and straight, turn it around and create that corner on the other end. Some people already have a lineup already set up, and some people you literally have to create the lineup for them. This young gentleman had a lot of hair on his forehead, so we really had to create a lineup for him. But as you can see, once you create the lineup, it makes the haircut really pop out and stand out. A few steps down, we're going to still clean it up with a razor blade. But now we're just going to go back and do some detail work and just really do a final blend on the sides. Just just using clipper over comb, blending it all in, making sure that it looks nice and even, erasing any shadows that I might find. Like right here I pick up my my half clip, but I'm just going upwards and just raking and making sure that it all blends properly. This basically is all just detail, going around the sides and just blending it all in, getting my half clip and just going up the sides, and any spot that I feel that needs a little bit of blending, I just basically put my corner down and just rake it up. Then I get my shave gel and I get ready to do my lineup with my straight razor, putting this head back and just lining up my lineup that I did earlier, cleaning it all up, making my lines look nice and sharp. I think using your straight razor when you're doing a lineup is essential. It just adds that pop to the haircut, makes it look nice and clean, makes your lines look nice and crisp. Right here what I'm doing now is I'm applying some Suavecito pomade and basically just combing it into the hair and combing it all back, slicking it all back. This is what the gentleman wanted, slick back, razor fade with a lineup. I always end my haircuts with the final step of a clipper over comb, just going around the edges, making sure that everything looks sharp, everything looks even. Pull out the half clip, just last detail spots before we end this haircut. If you like this haircut, if you like what we do here, leave a comment, subscribe. I'm going to be coming out with other videos. I'm here to help, guys. If you guys have any comments, any questions, feel free to let me know. I can help out. Thanks, guys.